Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much indeed for joining me tonight on this webinar, where I'm very pleased to be joined by Simon Zutshi from PIN. And between us tonight, we're going to be discussing what you can be doing now to prepare for business as usual. If it will probably not be the same as it used to be, but the new business as usual. Once the lockdown has come to an end. So welcome, Simon.
Hello, Richard. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And yourself?
I'm really good, Richard, and very pleased to be on this webinar. I think there's a lot of opportunity right now if we look beyond the immediate situation, obviously. And I think it's really important to be getting ready for that. So really happy to be able to contribute and give you some ideas.
Thank you very much. Well, we're very pleased to have you with us. First of all, before we start, just to make sure that everybody gets the most out of this webinar, there's some things that I'd just like to remind you. So first of all, turn off your phone, and I'll just make sure that I've got mine off. Yes, I have. Remove any distractions from the room. So young people, old people and pets, do please participate and ask questions. What I'd actually like you to do is, if you do have any questions as we're going through, just type them into the Q&A box, and then at the end we'll come to those, and I'll try and get through as many as we can. And also do take lots of notes as well. And also the webinar is being recorded, so we will make that available for you to revisit at a later date. So please do play it back just as a refresher in the future. So, first of all, Simon, let's talk about what the opportunities are now that people should be considering and planning for once the lockdown has finished.
Great. Okay. Well, first of all, before we look at what's happening right now, I just want to ask people a question, which is, there are two best times to invest. I want to ask people if they know, if they want to type into the chat box, when they think the very best time to invest, or the most recent best time to invest was. They want to think about that and just type something into the chat box. And we'll see what people say. And let's look at some of the comments coming in. I would say the very best time in recent years was probably about 2008 to invest. What happened in 2008 was, as a result of the credit crunch in 2007, prices have shot up. Around the world, there was irresponsible lending and borrowing, and there's a lot of toxic debt tied up with good debt. And the banks realized that some of these mortgages and loans they'd given people would never actually be paid back. And so that caused a credit crunch. Prices crashed. It was very difficult to get finance in 2008. And most people were panicking trying to sell. Now, interesting, in that time, myself and some of my clients and people who kind of knew what they were doing were actually buying lots of property. When everyone else was panicking and selling, we were buying, because we were buying for the holding for the long term. And we recognized that it was a great opportunity to get some really good prices. And if you think back, anybody who was investing at that time, 2000, 2009, they'd probably seen their properties double in value over the last 10, 12 years. Whereas people who maybe bought in 2007 at their peak, depending where they bought, some of those properties have crashed and are not really come back to where they were at 2007 yet. So it's a really interesting opportunity that we saw then. And I believe that we're going to see a little bit of a rewind to that time. I don't think we're going to see quite the same crash as we had then. There's different circumstances, but I think there's going to be lots of landlords wanting to sell. And I think it's going to be a bit of a price dip. I'll come on to that in a bit, but I think it's going to be a real opportunity. The second best time to invest is always now, as long as you know what you're doing. Because, you know, you might think, oh, I wish I'd done it 12 years ago, but if you didn't, well, now's the time to get going. Next bullet point, please. So what's going to happen to property prices this year? Well, I think property prices, we're going to see an oversupply of property, particularly from landlords wanting to sell. We've had a whole host of things, changing legislation, introduction of Section 24, All of these things are coming. Plus then there's COVID-19, which means some landlords are worrying about tenants not being able to pay, etc. That's the final nail in the coffin for many landlords. And I think we're going to see lots of landlords wanting to sell and not enough demand. So I think prices are going to fall. The problem is we don't know how far they're going to fall. And sometimes people say, well, if prices are going to come down, should we sometimes wait until they hit the bottom and then buy at the bottom? Now, in theory, that is a brilliant idea. You know, if you wait and hit the very bottom and buy just then, you'll get the lowest price. The problem is no one really knows when it's going to hit the bottom. And when it does hit the bottom and everyone realizes and the market starts to go up, all of the sellers have this expectation that someone's going to come along and give them more for their property than they might otherwise have got. So they have this hope value. So it's definitely easier to get discounts when the market's coming down than when it's going up. I maintain there are always motivated sellers in every market, and you can absolutely get deals while the market's going up, but it's easier when the market's coming down. So you might think, well, yeah, but I understand that, Simon, but if prices are going to be potentially lower in 6 or 12 months' time, do I really want to buy now? And when I say now, I don't mean literally right now. I mean kind of the back end, 3 to 6 months from now is going to be perfect time to be buying, okay? And the stuff we can do in the meantime. But if value's going to come down further, do we really want to buy now? Well, remember Property Magic and the 5 golden rules in Property Magic. Rule number 1, we buy from motivated sellers. Well, there are plenty of those. There will be the next 3 to 6 months. Rule number 2 is we only buy in an area with strong rental demand. What that means is we can easily rent it out in case the current tenants move on. We can find some more tenants to come in. Rule number 3 is we only ever buy something that's going to give us positive cash flow. If it doesn't give positive cash flow, it's not an investment, don't buy it. Rule number 4 is we're holding for long term. Now, if you think about rule 2, 3, and 4, if you buy in an area, you can rent it out. If it's making positive cash flow and you're holding it for the long term, well, it doesn't matter if short term prices dip. If in 6 or 12 months later it's lower than you bought it for, doesn't matter as long as you're holding for long term. Because the fundamentals are we live on an island in the UK, there's a limited supply of accommodation and an increasing population. What this means is over the long term, prices and rents go up. So as long as you remember the 5 golden rules, now is a great time to be investing. Next slide, please. As I said, many landlords are going to want to sell. You might just want to run through these. You'll be able to keep up where I'm up to. And I believe we're going to enter into a recession. And so what that means is that when times are tough, people will need to cut their costs. They need to save money and reduce their outgoings. So I think we're going to see people who may be living on their own at the moment in apartments or studios where they're paying the rent and also all the bills. They might say, well, you know what? I don't know if I can really afford to do this. And some of them might move home to live with mum and dad if that's possible, if there's space and if they're in the same city. But many people won't be able to do that, and they'll move into an HMO, a shared house of multiple occupation, which is far more cost effective than living in a studio or an apartment, and also sometimes it's actually more space than living in your own apartment. So I think we're going to see recession and difficult times. It might be a difficult time to buy, you know, if it's difficult to actually get mortgages. Right now, many lenders are not accepting applications. That's because they're nervous about the market and also because they can't actually get valuations at the moment. So what this means is lots of supply, not enough demand. This, I believe, is going to be the buying opportunity of the decade. The only problem is we don't understand the timescales. So what we can do right now is we can start to get ready. We need to get everything in place. And that's kind of a lot of what this webinar is about, Rich, and that's why I agreed to come on, because I think rather than sitting back and waiting, which is what many investors are doing, they'll sit back, they'll wait, and then when they know it's the right time, they'll jump in again, but they'll take a couple of months to get going and they will lose the competitive advantage. If you want to be really successful, guys, you want to do a lot of groundwork now, get all your systems put in place. There are some things we're going to talk about later that you can absolutely do in the meantime. So when is the right time? When it comes, we'll be able to move very, very quickly. So because of this, what are the best strategies going to be? Well, I think we're going to see HMOs is going to be very popular because it's a very cost-effective way for people to live. So I think it's going to be an increase in demand for HMOs. If lots of landlords are selling their properties, there's going to be less competition. So in fact, there's going to be increased demand but less supply. So we're going to see rents go up, I think, and demand for these properties go up. And if the current difficulty getting mortgages continues, and we don't know if that's going to happen or not, actually purchase lease options might be a great way to buy. And if you think about it, if values have dropped down, there might be landlords who don't really want to sell right now because they've just lost a bit of capital. They want to wait a couple of years till the market comes back a bit. We can use options to help them do that and give them more than they would get if they sold right now. So I believe, in summary, Richard, now is a really time to get excited and also to get busy. Don't sit back and rest on your laurels. Now is a time to be stepping up your marketing, stepping up your activity, because I guarantee you most people are not going to do that. And those that seize this opportunity are going to be put in a much better position to make the most of what I believe is this buying opportunity of this decade.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much for that, Simon. And as you say, there are these opportunities, and now is the time to really be doing the things, getting yourself ready, getting your business fit, so that you can, you're in a position to move, as you say.
Absolutely.
So okay, so let's talk in a little bit more detail now about what you can actually be doing. So the first thing is really understand your strategy, understand your business, get your business plan in place, get it down on paper. You mentioned purchase lease options, PLOs. So purchase lease options are a fantastic strategy. But you do really need to understand the detail. And I know, Simon, you've got some really good training, haven't you, on purchase lease options? So,
Sorry, yes, I just mean to say, yes, we do. It's not actually available. We bring it out every so often. We're going to bring that out, I think, in end of June or July, because that's going to be the time we're starting to come out of this, I think, and the perfect time for that strategy, yeah.
Yeah. So understand your strategy and training. If you need to take time now to really understand the strategy, do some training. You've got the time available. Serviced accommodation. So obviously that at the moment it's a great strategy, but now is not the time to be putting properties out on Airbnb. Well, you can't put properties out on Airbnb for short-term lets. But when it does return, when things do get back to normal and the lockdown finishes, I believe that service accommodation is going to be a fantastic strategy.
I agree.
Yeah, I think, people that have been in lockdown for however long it's going to be, 2-3 months, they're obviously going to need to, that people are going to want to get out there. They're going to want to be going away. There's going to be some perhaps construction sites that have been put onto hold. And then they're going to become active again, those projects. So contractors are going to need accommodating. There's going to be all sorts of a big boom in serviced accommodation. And again, supply and demand. There's going to be less operators out there, less choice. So if you have got properties that you can switch to serviced accommodation, I think there's going to be some great opportunities there for you. We actually have an online home study course, which is called Virtual Serviced Accommodation Masterclass. So it could be a time to start doing that. That is around about 9 hours worth of video content. So you can do it at your own time, at your own rate. It includes all the top documents and templates that you need to actually start and grow the serviced accommodation business. So you could look at that. Other trainings, other videos, if you know what the strategy is, home in on it, take the time to actually understand what you want to be doing with your business. Think about your problems. What are the problems that you've had in the last 12 months? What are the problems that you envisage coming up against when things do return to normal? A lot of businesses are changing the way they're doing things. There's some businesses now that are just going to fold. They're going to shut up shop. There's other businesses that when things do return, they're going to change the way they do things. So if this is you, think about how you're going to change, what problems you've had, what new problems you may have when you open up shop again, and start thinking about the solutions to those problems. Now is really a time to look at your systems. So look up what software you're using in your business, or what software you're not using in your business. Start doing some research, looking at things like CRM systems, property management systems, packages like Arthur, if you're thinking about going into serviced accommodation, moving into that, channel managers. So looking at all of those different bits of software, and we can help you with some of that and advise you. Looking at your processes, coming up with new processes for your business. So looking at all of those, testing them, trying them out, getting familiar with them, and documenting out what the software is and what your processes are. One of the bits of software that I use extensively, and it's really, really good for planning, and that is Trello. So Trello is a task management software or project management software, and you can schedule out all of the things that you need to do, all of your to-dos on using Trello. You can set dates, and you can prioritize exactly what you're doing. It's a very good piece of software. You can run it on your desktop, you can run it on your iPad, or you can run it on your smartphone. It's a good dumping ground for thoughts as they come into your head. Just dump everything down into Trello, and then when you're doing your planning, you can start scheduling out what all of these thoughts are, putting them into a priority list, and then scheduling out exactly when you're going to be doing the various different tasks. So in summary here, eliminate all of the time wasting tasks that you may be doing, scheduling out the high value tasks, eliminate things that rob you of your time. So in fact, this was a tip that I got from you, Simon, a few years ago, is taking time to go through your inbox and you know, looking at all the junk mail that we get.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and just unsubscribing from it and clearing that inbox. Yeah, so much time is wasted by, you know, continually, you know, emails that flash up, and they just completely rob you of your time. There may be groups that you belong to on WhatsApp that, again, you know, some of the groups that I have joined in the past, and now, you know, the groups grow, and it goes from a group when you originally joined perhaps of, you know, half a dozen people, and now there's 20, 30 people in there, all posting stuff once a day, and it's just unmanageable, and it robs you of your time. So eliminate those things, and the important things, use software so that you can automate what you're doing. One of the pieces of software that I use, which is really, really good for cutting down your time, is called Acuity. Do you use that or something similar yourself, Simon?
I don't actually know. I probably should do.
Yeah, it's really, really good for managing your appointments. And with Acuity, your clients or the people that need to make appointments with you, they do it for you. So rather than having to take phone calls at an inconvenient time, if somebody just wants to have a 5-minute chat with you on the telephone, then they can go to your online calendar, they can book a 5-minute slot with you, and then you know to expect the call, you can be prepared for the call, you know who's going to call you. And the same at my Acuity calendar, people can schedule short telephone conversations, 20-minute telephone conversations, or if it's a Zoom call, then that can be scheduled using Acuity. So it's a real time save, and it really does allow you to plan out your day without being robbed of your time. So automate as much as possible. And then thirdly, delegate. don't be doing the tasks that that you don't either need to do or want to do yourself. So make sure you can delegate out as much as possible. And we're going to be talking about virtual assistants in a minute. So start looking at a virtual assistant. And again, of course, we can help you with that. Don't be doing the stuff that you really don't need to do. I mean, so Simon, you've got virtual assistants and assistants. How does that?
I have physical assistants in my office. I use your virtual assistants in the Philippines, yeah, and a combination of the two.
Yeah, and it really is a game changer when you learn the art of delegation and you're getting other people to do these things for you. So planning is so important, to make time to plan. So what is it? Fail to plan and plan to fail, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. So, at the weekend, over the weekend, plan out what it is that you're going to be doing that week. I talked about Trello earlier. So if you put all of your to-dos down into Trello, then Trello actually set the dates that you're going to actually do that, and then Trello has a fantastic calendar feature, so it will sync with either iCal or Google Calendars, and as you start to plan out perhaps on a Sunday what you're going to be doing that week on your Trello board, then that will automatically populate it in your phone on your calendar. So as you come to each day, you can see exactly what those high value tasks are that you need to do that day. Also schedule time in the week to plan as well. So to review what you've done so far that week. Things may have changed, so you may need to reorder things, restructure your week. So think about, again, what you've got coming up, and is there anything else that you need to be doing to be ready for the upcoming tasks that you've got in that week? It's really good to, I don't know if you do this, Simon, but I do. I like to set aside 2 or 3 slots a week, about 90 minutes each one, just to sit in a room, peace and quiet, turn my phone off, get my journal out, and just make lots of notes about the things I've got to do, and then I can then transfer those from my journal onto Trello and organise my time that way.
Yeah, I do that, Richard. It's so important to plan, because otherwise you're just firefighting all the time. And I think one of the things people often do, they have an action list. So I've got all these things I'm going to do, because they don't plan, they don't work out what the most important thing is. Very often, I've done this myself, you do the easiest thing on the list so you can tick it off and make yourself feel good. Whereas actually you want to focus on the most important things and make sure you're always moving forward. Yeah.
Eat That Frog. Who's that? Who's the author?
Brian Tracy.
Brian Tracy. That's it. Yeah. So that's a great read about eating frogs. So as you just said, so many of us we know it's too easy to focus on the low value tasks that are easy to do, but those big fat hairy ones that that are going to take time, that we keep putting off, those are really the important ones. So yeah, that's a really good book to read, to talk about how to really sort of stare those ones in the face and then go for them. GPI, so goals, priorities, and initiatives. So the tasks are the goals. So get those scheduled out, as we said earlier. Prioritize each one and put those in order. And then what are the initiatives? So what do you need to do? What do you need to have in place to actually achieve those tasks? And then delegate out. So whether you've got a VA, a PA, or other people within your team, so as you're going through those tasks, delegate out as much as you can. And again, so the way I use Trello, so on my Trello board, I have, first of all, I use it, as I said earlier, as a dumping ground for all of the things that I need to do. And then when I start to schedule out my week, I have to-do lists on there for myself. And I also have to-do lists on there for all of the members of my team. So I go to my dump, I look at those tasks and I will drag them over to my own to-do list, adding the dates that I want to have those complete, and then those that I don't actually need to do, I drag those over to the to-do lists for my team members as well. And that board, by the way, is also shared with all of the team members. So I'm creating their to-do lists as well as my own at the same time. So what are the things that your VA can be doing for you now? So as we said earlier, you need to be looking at what software you're using, what systems you could be using. We talked about a couple earlier. CRM systems, if you're not using a CRM system, that is a game changer, especially if you're working with other people. So a CRM system is a client relationship manager, and that is where you store all of your contact details, all the notes that you have associated with those contacts. So if you have a telephone conversation or you have a Zoom call with somebody, all of the notes from the meeting, from that engagement, you put them all into the CRM system. If you send an email to somebody, it gets logged in your CRM system. If you have an appointment, then it gets logged within the CRM system. So all of the interactions you have with all of your contacts, and it doesn't have to be a client, it could be a JV partner, it could be a tenant, it could be a contractor, it can be anybody that you engage with in your business. You put all those details, all the details of the engagement in that CRM system. And then everything is there, all held together in one place. And if you've got other members in your team that are also engaging with those people, then they have access to the CRM system and they can add to the notes whenever they talk to one of your clients. Then the notes are in there. You can see immediately what the status is, what anybody within your team, what they have communicated with those contacts of yours, and they can see the notes that from you. So, you know, when you're working with teams, when you're working with people, and even if you're working on your own, using a CRM system is really, I think it is an essential tool of business. If you've got follow-ups, if you're perhaps talking to a potential landlord or a potential tenant, and you need to have a follow-up call with them, you can mark that in your CRM system, you know, to follow up the call in a month's time, and then in a month's time, ping, you're going to get an email or a notification to say you've got to call this particular, contact. So that is a real game changer. We use one there in our business, which is called Less Annoying CRM. It's really, really good. One of the problems with CRM systems is they can be very, very complex and difficult to use because they've got a whole load of features in there. But like with a lot of things, 90% of those features you don't need. It's only the 10% that you do need. Less Annoying CRM is what it says on the tin. It's very easy to use. It's not complex. It's not expensive. I think it costs £7.50 a month to subscribe to. And in fact, if you subscribe to that via my website, there's a link on my website to a lot of the software that we subscribe to and we recommend. So take a look at that. And if you subscribe via my website, you'll actually get the first 60 days free of charge. So it's actually no risk at all. So I'd recommend taking a look at that. Look at the other bits of software, start deciding what you're going to use. And then once you've decided, then if you've got a virtual assistant, you can then get your virtual assistant to actually start setting that up, doing all of the initial setup that you need. They can be doing that for you, so you're not wasting your time doing that. We were talking about this earlier, weren't we, Simon? So now is a really good time to start looking through your accounts and doing all of your reconciliation, get your reconciliation and your accounts up to date. Your VA can be doing all of this for you. They don't have to have access to your bank account if you're worrying about that. There's software, so Xero and QuickBooks are two of the most common pieces of software used within the property sector. Your VA, again, you can subscribe to that. Your VA can then set that up for you. They can start reconciling all of your accounts going back through the financial year. And as you were saying earlier, so we're now at the beginning of the new financial year.
Yeah, it's a great, everyone should be. Most people for their business probably use the tax year. And so what they normally do is they leave it right till the end of the year, the last possible chance. But, you know, you can get a VA because you should really not be doing your accounts. I used to do all my own books years and years ago. I finally got someone in my business to do it for me. But it's such, unless you love doing it, it's such a bad use of your time. And other people can probably do it much better, much quicker. And the amount of time you're going to save is incredible. So get your VA or someone doing it for you now, reconcile it all. And you want to use that. So you've got management accounts, you work out where are you now, where do you want to go to? And you can use that information rather than just having it all retrospective.
Yeah, absolutely. And use the time now. And also, you know, it's really important that you're reviewing on a regular basis, at least once a month, your P&L as well. So you're using the accounting software. Your VA can prepare those for you. So get that set up as well is another thing right now to be looking at. Tidying up your file structure. So most of us are using, whether it's iCloud, OneDrive, Dropbox, something like that, a cloud storage system. But now, you know, how many people have actually got it well thought out, a good structure in place? Again, if you're working with teams and you're sharing with your PA or your VA, so that you're all adopting the same practice for where you actually save stuff on that shared folder. So if you've got a VA, why not get them to actually come up with an agreed file structure and then document that. There's some really good software out there that allows you to produce charts where you can illustrate what the agreed file structure is. We use one called Freeform, and that we use that a lot extensively actually for various different things, but mapping out things like file structures is, you know, Freeform is ideal for doing that. Then just make sure that once you've got that documented, that everybody in your organization is following the same process, and make it a rule also that if the VA has come up with the file structure, what can be a good rule is that nobody else can change that file structure. So if somebody feels that, oh well, I can't find a suitable place to save this particular file or document, then pass that to the VA and let the VA work out the solution, because they're responsible for maintaining the file structure, and then they can notify everybody else of what amendments may be made. And that leads on quite nicely to operations manuals. So an operations manual is a manual which sets out in detail exactly what your processes are, how you do things. And so that can take the form of, that can be done in many different ways. So we just talked about Freeform. So again, Freeform, you can use that to illustrate workflows. You can use perhaps Zoom for making screen recordings. So if there's software that you're using, then you can record that using Zoom, doing a screen share, record it. It will record how you move the mouse, how you move through the software, and you can obviously record the voice over that as well, so you can talk it through. So that can form part of your O&M manuals. You can also obviously create PowerPoint presentations and Word documents. You know, there's various different ways that you can create these ops manuals. And sometimes it's worth actually using maybe a couple of different ways, because different people in your organisation are likely to absorb things in different ways. So for some people, they may be very visual, and they may learn better by watching demonstrations and screen recordings. Other people like to have lots of words and lots of text. So by knowing the people within your organisation, you will know the best way to actually create that ops manual. But again, when I say you, it really doesn't need to be you. So the way I do this within my organisation, and I've got quite a large team of VAs, but I get the VA that's actually got to run the process to create the operations manual that goes around that process, and then they give it to somebody else to then try and follow that operations manual and give the feedback if there are any changes or if there's anything missing. So we can identify problems within the ops manual by getting somebody else to check it who actually wasn't involved in writing the ops manual. And then you can also get your VA, finally on this slide, to start looking at your marketing and see how you can improve your marketing. So we're going to talk about marketing in a moment, but Simon, have you got any other further comments that you'd like to add on that one?
Not really. I mean, I think it's a case of just all those things that you haven't been doing, the things you've not got around to. This is the perfect opportunity to get the VA to help. I mean, you do some of yourself, but I suggest you do the things where you're really adding value, and things that you don't necessarily have to do. Those are the things you get your VA to do.
Yeah, thank you. So let's look at marketing. And there's a lot you can be doing now. This is really the time to really focus on your marketing. So firstly, if you're not using social media to make yourself known, you really, really should be. Social media is so fantastic for marketing. It's very, very cheap. And you may be thinking, oh, you know, I'm a bit old, I'm not used to that, I'm not a kid. Well, again, when I say you, okay, if you've got a virtual assistant, then they can do this stuff for you. You don't necessarily have to understand it. And a lot of the VAs, you know, they've grown up with social media and they do get it and they do understand it. So, you know, get out there on social media, start looking at your profile, have a really good profile on WhatsApp, or not WhatsApp, sorry, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. You want to be using all of those platforms. Good photographs, regular comments, regular posts, commenting on other people's posts, and you know, that's how you get seen. We get a lot of our business comes through people that have just found us on social media. So yeah, tell everybody what you do. So like I say, post regularly on the social media sites, join up with other groups. So grow your network. You can join other groups on social media, join Simon's groups, join my groups, connect with other people, friend people in those groups. You know, when if you've got a following of say 2,000 people on Facebook, you're not just talking to those 2,000 people. You're talking to all of the people that those 2,000 people know as well. So, you know, it is really, really massive. And all it takes is a little bit of time, and it doesn't have to be your time. It can be your VA's time to actually do this. Start putting together email campaigns. So building lists of contacts, people that you actually want to get to. Know your market and then attack them. So you could be sending out regular newsletters via email. We talked earlier about Less Annoying CRM, and that integrates with MailChimp. If you're not familiar with MailChimp, that allows you to, again, very, very cheap, well, for free. You can be doing email campaigns out to 1,000 people very, very simply, very, very easily. Via MailChimp. So now's the time again to start doing email campaigns and getting your name out there. And landlord letters. So getting lists of landlords if you're looking to do HMOs and rent-to-rents in particular areas. Getting onto the get onto the local council. They will have a list of landlords in that area, and you can then reach out to those landlords via letter, via post, and there's various different ways of doing that. You can either do it very cheaply and go mass to send out 400 letters to 400 landlords on printed paper, and there are companies. I don't know if you could talk about any of the companies. I can't recall their names, Simon, but there are companies.
Yeah, you've got Flex Property, that's Joe James and Silver, and also Stephen Ray is a printing company that can do the mail mergers and send them all out for you. They can actually do a font that's a handwritten front on the envelope, so it looks like it's handwritten, which is really good.
Yeah, that's it. So that's, that having a letter that stands out from all of the others is really, really important. So that's, you can do it that way, very, very cheap. An alternative way, again, is you can get your VA to do this for you. So I don't know, so I'll just talk about the 3-letter campaign. So this is where you have letter 1, which goes out, and that may be on yellow paper. And for some people, they may reply to that. And then, but for those people that don't, you may send out another letter in a couple of weeks' time, 2 or 3 weeks' time, different coloured paper, and then you could refer to the original letter. And then if you don't get a response from that, then 2 or 3 weeks later, you can send out another handwritten letter on a different coloured paper again. So you've now had 3 stabs at this with handwritten letters going to landlords. And so I have done handwritten letters. I've had them written out by my VA in the Philippines by hand, and then couriered over to me. And the response I've had from the 3-letter coloured campaign, handwritten with handwritten envelopes, has been 10 times the response I've had from the normal printed letter. So much, much higher response rate, which allows you to be more selective. So again, you can get your VA to actually spend time doing the research, and rather than sending out 400 letters, maybe send out 100 letters, but be more selective as to the streets or the type of properties and landlords that you are going to. So that is really, really a very effective way of doing landlord letters. So we're going to talk just a little bit more now about task management. So we did talk about Trello. There's also Asana. Some people prefer Asana for task management, but you definitely do need to be using some kind of task management software. Trello, again, I think via the website you can sign up to Trello. There is a free version that's available, which will do probably most people on this webinar. The free version will be fine. Put all of the to-dos, not just for you, on Trello, but for your whole team, and always set due by dates. It's so important, because if you don't set the due by date for the tasks that you're scheduling out for other people to do, then they're going to set the due by date for you, either on Trello or in their head. So that could be miles apart from when you actually want something done. You need to be prioritizing the work, not your VA or other team members. So that's so important to do that. Make sure you are holding weekly team meetings. So whether it's 2 of you in the team or more, just every week have a Zoom call, and you use your Trello board as the agenda for that Zoom call, and you run through every single task that's being undertaken during that call. So it may be new tasks that you're discussing and you're setting and you're adding to Trello at that particular time. You can discuss that and answer any questions. It may be that you're checking in on tasks that are in progress, and again, answering any questions, dealing with any issues that may have come up. Or finally, if it's tasks that are complete, so the way we do this, when a task has been complete, then they will mark that task as complete, but we will discuss it during our weekly team meeting, and it's not signed off until I agree it's complete. And then finally, make sure that you are having daily catch-ups. And again, right now, it's best to do this over Zoom. So this only needs to be a 15-minute Zoom call, maybe first thing in the morning, where you are just having a check-in, again, to answer any quick questions, make sure that they're okay with everything, and deal with any issues that may have come up. I do also recommend that you get daily reports as well from your VA or from any other team members. So they just send you a quick email at the end of each day saying what they've been working on that day, how many hours they've worked, any problems that they may have encountered, or any more additional help or information that they may need from you. So I hope that's been useful. We have got some questions here, which I'm going to quickly run through. Please do type into the Q&A box any other questions. I know, Simon, you've got a few more minutes, haven't you, I think, before you're going to need to disappear. So
I have indeed, yes. Happy to answer any questions that come through. So any relevant ones, just let's look at those first, maybe.
Okay, so I've got here, hi, what is the spelling of the software? So I'm not sure which piece of software that was that you were referring to, Gwen. But it may have been Trello that you were asking about, which is TRELLO, or less annoying CRM was another one we talked about, and another one was Acuity, which is ACUITY. Somebody else has said they use Calendly for appointments, which is, yes, I've heard that is very good. I don't use it, but it's very similar to Acuity. Somebody else agreeing to, yes, eat that frog. Which VA do you use, please, Dean? So I think that's quite a good question. I'm not if I've interpreted it right. When you start building teams, I would not take on a VA to work full time. Rather than have one full-time VA doing everything for you, take on two or more VAs working part-time. And that allows you, first of all, to build some resilience within your team. And that way, if somebody is sick or they leave or they go on holiday, you're not left with without any support at all. So that's one good reason to have more than one VA, but also it allows you to direct the tasks to different people depending on what their skill sets and experience are. So it's quite likely that the person that's doing your social media is not going to be the best person to do your bookkeeping, and vice versa. So again, you can allocate those tasks to the right sort of person. Somebody else said they love Asana. Thank you very much, Stephen. Great presentation. Anything else at all that you'd like to share, Simon, before you disappear?
Unmute myself. I don't think so, Richard. I think just my key message really is that you're absolutely right. It's now's a great time when people do have more time than they have normally to really use that time wisely and think about what can they do now to get ready for what I believe is going to be the best buying opportunity of the decade. If you've got home study courses you haven't done, go through those. But as you said, all your systems, your accounts, your processes, get someone else to help you with that, because no one likes doing that kind of stuff and you're going to get bogged down. It's important stuff that needs to be done. Get everything ready so you've got your ducks in a row ready to move.
Yeah, thank you very much. And so just to finish off here, if you would like any more information at all on VaVaVoom and what we do, then please go to the website. You can scan that QR code there. That will take you to our website. That gives you all the information about VaVaVoom, where we can help you systemize your business, advise you on software, and we can provide you with a VA who is fully trained by us in how to actually work remotely best with you. A lot of the Philippines is very, very popular for virtual assistants because they speak great English. It's very good value. They are very committed and dedicated. They're very loyal and hardworking. Lots of details on the website. So please do go to that, and we can tell you more about working with virtual assistants from the Philippines. I also have another business which is Smart Hospitality Solutions. Scan the QR code there. That is a call answering service for the hospitality sector. Obviously, that's a rather quiet business at the moment, but there's details there, and like I say, it's going to bounce back, I'm sure, when we're through this. So lots of details there. And finally, if you would like to book a call with me, discuss with me anything that we've talked about today about Smart Hospitality Solutions or VaVaVoom, then the code on the left, if you scan that, that will take you to the to my appointments page, and feel free to schedule a call in there. So thank you very much, Alice. Glad you've enjoyed it. So I don't know if you can see that, Simon, but Alice Duncan there, passing on her thanks as well to you.
Thank you, guys, and thank you very much for asking me, Richard, and I hope you got lots of value out of it. Thank you very much.
No, really has been great. Thank you, Simon, for joining us tonight. Very much do appreciate that. And
thanks, Richard.
I'll let you go now. Thank you. So thanks, guys. Thank you very much. And do stay safe out there. And hope you've enjoyed the tonight's webinar. Like I say, it will be available on Facebook for you to review. And please do leave any further comments that you may have on Facebook. So thanks very much and good night.